The year is somewhere in the 1280s. You're a man who wants to marry a princess. All you have to do is beat her in a wrestling match. You've trained for months, you're strong, you're ready. She throws you in 30 seconds. You'll see the moment 10,000 horses changed hands, and what that number actually tells us about one woman's power. You'll find out what Marco Polo wrote about her the night she wrestled in front of 100,000 witnesses. And you'll learn why the most powerful woman in the Mongol Empire was almost completely erased from history, and who had the most to gain from doing it. Her name was Khutulun, and I think she might be the most remarkable person you've never heard of. Start with the world she was born into. The Mongol Empire in the late 13th century isn't one unified thing anymore. It's fracturing. Kublai Khan rules the east, but in Central Asia, a man named Kaidu holds power, and he refuses to bow to Kublai's vision of a Sinicized, settled empire. Kaidu is a warrior, a traditionalist, a man who believes the Mongols should stay Mongol. And Khutulun is his daughter. Not just any daughter either. She is, by multiple accounts, his favorite, his most trusted military commander. She rides into battle beside him, and she doesn't ride in the back. Contemporary sources describe her charging into enemy formations and pulling enemy soldiers off their horses bare-handed. Think about that image, a woman riding into a pitched cavalry battle and emerging with a captive under her arm. That's not a legend. That's what the sources say. Now here's the thing I keep coming back to. Kaidu had 14 sons. 14. And yet he repeatedly favored Khutulun. He wanted her counsel in war councils. Some sources suggest he wanted her as his successor. That's the tension at the heart of this story. A daughter who was, by any military and political measure, more capable than her brothers, in a world that didn't have a clean mechanism for that. The wrestling matches fit right into this world. Khutulun announced her terms clearly. Any man who wanted to marry her had to compete against her in wrestling. If he won, she would marry him. If she won, he forfeited horses. Typically, 100 horses per match. Though some accounts vary, she never lost. Not once. The horses piled up, 10,000 of them, according to Marco Polo. Let me stop on that number. 10,000 horses. In the Mongol world, horses are currency. Horses are power. Horses are military capacity. 10,000 horses is an army. It's a statement. It's not just the prize from a quirky tradition. It's the accumulated proof that she beat every man who tried. How many men is that? If each forfeited 100 horses, that's 100 defeated suitors. 100 men who trained, prepared, believed they could win, and didn't. Think about what the wrestling ring was doing here. It wasn't just a test of strength. It was a throne room. Every match was Khutulun saying, "I don't accept the terms you're offering me. Make a better case." Nobody could. Now I want to talk about Marco Polo, because this is where the story gets interesting, and where historians start to argue. Marco Polo claims to have traveled through Central Asia in this period. He writes about Khutulun directly. He calls her Ayyaruk, which means moonlight in Turkic. She had multiple names, as powerful people often did. His account describes the wrestling matches in vivid detail. He describes a royal audience. He describes her parents pleading with her to just lose one match, to find a husband, to settle down. She refused. Now, how much do we trust Marco Polo? That's a fair question. His accounts mix genuine observation with exaggeration and second-hand information. Some historians think he embellished heavily. Some think he never even went where he claimed. But here's the thing. The core of the Khutulun story isn't just Marco Polo. Persian and Central Asian chronicles also mention her. Her military role alongside Kaidu is documented from multiple directions. The wrestling matches may be legendary in their details. The woman herself is historical fact. Here's where the story turns dark. Kaidu dies in 1301. He has reportedly tried to name Khutulun as one of his successors, or at minimum, given her significant power and standing in the succession question. Her brothers are not pleased. What happens next is a pattern so familiar in history, it almost has a shape you can recognize. Khutulun's reputation comes under attack. Rumors start, and I want to be careful here because these are rumors, not facts, suggesting an inappropriate relationship with her father. It's a slander, a specific targeted slander designed to do one thing: make it impossible to take her political claims seriously. It works. She never takes power. She dies sometime around 1306. The exact circumstances are unclear. And then the systematic forgetting begins. I keep coming back to the mechanics of that erasure. The Mongol Empire produced an enormous amount of historical record. But that record was mostly written by men, often after the fact, often under rulers with political interests. When a woman threatened succession, the easiest move wasn't violence. It was silence. Just stop writing her name down. Let the horses scatter. Let the matches fade. Let the next generation grow up not knowing her name. It almost worked. This is the metaphor I want you to hold on to. Khutulun's story is like a brand in the dirt, vivid and clear when it's fresh, and then slowly covered over by wind, by time, by people who preferred the ground look flat. We're standing here right now, looking at the outline of something enormous. And the outline is still there. She was a military commander who rode in battles that shaped Central Asian history. She held genuine political power in one of the most powerful states on Earth. She constructed a system, the wrestling matches, the horses, that kept her autonomous in a world designed to trade women between powerful men. And she did it for years, successfully. The question historians are still sitting with is this: did her story get buried because she failed? Or because she came terrifyingly close to succeeding? Those are not the same question. If she failed, she's a curiosity, a footnote, a good story. If she almost won, then the erasure makes sense. Then the slander makes sense. Then the silence makes sense. Somewhere in Central Asia, there is almost certainly more to find. Chronicle fragments, genealogical records, archaeological traces of a world that was very deliberately tidied up after 1301. Some historians are still looking. The 10,000 horses are long gone, but the outline in the dirt is still there. Subscribe. There are more files where this one came from.